that's about as mathy as I get, guys, so enjoy it while you can. But that's kind of the way that it works. Does that make sense? Okay? And I mean, if I'm asking y'all to read about a certain type of criticism, it's because I think it goes well with the text. So, I'm gonna ask you a question about that criticism and how you might think about the text. So like the question today was what are some things you might write about if you were gonna talk about post-colonialism in Hemingway's story? What'd you guys put?
Even though we're supposed to be a more like civilized, advanced society, we still strive for that primal aggression and killing something.
Absolutely. That would be one way you could approach this. What else? No, throw it out there.
I was thinking that it was, because it was in Africa, and it was there was rules. I mean, because they went and they were chasing the buffalo, I think.
Buffalo,
Bison,
lion,
whatever it was.
different
Yeah,
animals.
but they went to car and there was rules too, they weren't supposed to do that, they didn't do that, and so I was right, I put that on there, I made one for
The fact that it's in Africa actually is significant for post-colonialism, guys. What is colonialism? What is it? What does it bring up?
It's colonies, I mean.
Yeah, it's dealing with colonizing. So the British colonized part of Africa, right? They went over there, Africa, India, all of this. And so they have a very strong presence there. And you can actually see threads of that in Hemingway's story because he talks about the way they view the indigenous people there. When he's talking to them in Swahili and it's cheaper to pay them, but they're not really free type stuff. That's all also part of the post-colonialism structure. You'd be looking at a more suppressed culture and how the culture who's colonized them, how they're being treated or not treated. That would be another way to view post-colonialism. Jason?
Have you given us our Unit 2 paper yet?
Anybody want to answer that?
It's online.
It's online.
Oh, okay, all right.
When you were shuffling, that was one of the things I taught.
Oh, you were? Sorry.
Okay. So, I mean, are y'all getting the idea of these quizzes? Is this making sense to y'all? It really should at this point be clicking, and the quiz grades are getting better and better. Occasionally I see a stutter where somebody didn't read or maybe waited until like the end to read, and that will cause problems, guys. I mean, you can do it every so often, and if you luck out, you get the story and you understand things, but sometimes you won't, and so it's not, I don't really recommend that kind of reading schedule, okay? I get the whole busy life thing, I do, but that's why you have your course calendar at the beginning. You plan your schedule. Okay? Yes, Jason?
The thing we just read was The Short Happy Life. Were we supposed to do a response journal as a question to it?
You could.
But it's due today, right?
Yes.
So we can't do that one there, right?
Nope.
But you just told us about it in class, so about the
It's been on your course calendar.
I thought I could get away with it. That's fine. Okay.
No, you can't get away with it. Guys, that extra sheet is a perk. Do y'all get it?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not I have to do this for you. I'm doing it for your benefit. Thinking about what I would want as a student. Thinking about what would help you be successful. But that's not mandatory for me to have that happen. Okay? So you still need to refer to your course calendar. And also, guys, that checklist does not include all the readings. It's just the text that you could write your discussion questions or questions with. So it's not a good checklist to make sure you've done all your reading, okay? Because there's all the, what I call meta commentary stuff, like what is a play, and what is point of view. So you've got to make sure to look at your course calendar. The checklist is a supplement, not a replacement. What's up?
Is it still too late to do one for today?
Yes, it's too late.
Okay.
Class has started. We are discussing. Okay. Any questions about the quiz? Okay, let's just go through the other couple of stories here, guys. It begins in media res. What does that mean?
In the middle.
In the middle. So what's the event? What happened? He killed the lion. Well, he kind of killed the lion. Who killed the lion?
We scared the
Mr.
lion.
Wilson.
Wilson killed the lion. Who hurt the lion? Macumber. Okay, he hurt the lion, and then what did they have to do to kill the lion? They had to put it out of its misery because it slunk off where?
Into the field or whatever.
Yeah, into
Grass.
they call it the bush.
Yeah.
Okay, they call it the bush, but he slipped off into this tall grass and they had to go find it. Because why? Why does Wilson say that they have to finish off the
Because
line?
if somebody walks upon it, then they'll end up getting hurt. If they
They'll get
don't.
hurt.
Yeah.
Okay, why else? Yeah, the rules. There are these rules. You have to follow the rules, and the rules are you can't leave a wounded lion. Does that sound like a good rule?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's not a nonsensical rule. It seems pretty reasonable to us. I mean, if you're going to hurt an animal like that, you don't want to torture it. It's wrong to keep the lion in torture, which I think Wilson also mentions that. Like, we can't just leave it in pain. We have to finish it. Okay. But what does Francis do when they go into this bush? He freaks out and what?
The lion's roaring.
Yeah, he's all freaked out about the lion's roar, and he does what? He's scared, so he runs, okay? He runs from the lion, and that's significant in the story. You gotta know that, okay? Alright, the other question is, at the end of the story, what does Wilson accuse Margot, which is a shortening of Margaret, okay? Killing your husband. How does she kill her husband?
But then that was left behind.
Gun that was left behind, she shoots him in the back of the head. So here's our murder. What does she say she was doing?
Hunting.
She thought she was helping him out while she was
Yeah.
on it,
Oh, the
That's
buffalo.
what she
Okay.
says. The buffalo, yeah, because the buffalo was wounded and was charging towards him. And she says, I was going to shoot it so it didn't hurt him, but of course she ends up hitting her husband. Our question is, did she really try to shoot the buffalo, or was she trying to shoot her husband? What?
Well, there was a part in there where she comes in late at night into the tent while he's sleeping. I think she was over with Wilson doing something, and maybe she actually premeditated murder because she was on the way with Wilson.
Do
And
you
then,
agree with that? Do you think she did? Do you think Wilson was in on it?
no, I don't think he was in on it, but she was going to kill him, get the money, and then go with Wilson because he was a rich dude.
Okay, well, premeditating it with Wilson, though, would
No,
suggest that Wilson was part of the plan.
I don't know. She premeditated herself that she was going to use the honey as an accident, and then
That could be part of it. That could be part of it. I mean, it doesn't give us direct evidence for that, though, but you could.
but she did cry.
I don't think she did it on purpose. That's when I read it. Then I could be wrong.
No! I mean, the end of
She
the
was
story
upset.
is ambiguous.
He was taunting her. He was like, I know you didn't mean, he was just kind of,
What do you think of Wilson as a character?
he's arrogant.
Jackass.
He thinks he knows better, and he's kind of, I don't know.
Okay. What about Francis? How do y'all feel about him?
He's a
Pussy.
little
Poor
weird,
dude.
but-
Poor dude.
Coward.
He's a pantry.
Yeah. but-
Is he?
I'll tell you.
Yes, but
Well, I mean, these are the questions you have to ask.
yeah, she married him.
For what?
Money.
For money. Okay. Why did he marry her?
She's hot.
Beautiful.
Do you think that's a good reason to
No.
marry someone?
That's like rich and crazy people marry each other.
Oh, that's a stereotype.
That's Hollywood. Hey, look, you're hot and you have money. Let's get married.
I mean, but this is the interesting question,
Yeah,
right?
72
Okay.
days. Kim Kardashian.
Oh, that's
All right, focus. So, okay, guys. What then are your questions? Did anybody do discussion questions for tonight? You did, Anna. Do
Oh,
you have
wow.
a question for us?
I thought the lion represented, I was wondering if the lion represented something more than just like the animal itself, because it always referred back to it.
What do y'all think? Go ahead, Jason.
No, never mind. I had another question.
Okay, well, let's focus on the lion for a second, and then
Do
you
you
can ask your
mean
question.
kind of like her husband, because he's, I don't know, I see like wounded as someone that's
not like a full man, and then you have to kill him. So like the rules is you have to kill your husband because he's not a full man, he's a pansy. Do you know what I mean?
That's very,
Don't
very
marry
good.
her.
I actually like that.
Don't
interpretation.
I do like
Him
Please don't call my fiance.
like shoot you.
Does he like to
He'll
hunt?
never be afraid of anything.
Um,
Does he hunt?
He's a nerd, isn't he?
Does he hunt?
That's right.
Oh,
he looks like the older Harry Potter. He
Oh.
really does. And he wears
You should
No
bring
wonder
Hunter
you're
in.
engaged then.
Harry Potter. That's right. But anyway,
You should bring him pasta.
Yeah.
So we can wrap.
we'll see what I
Yeah, we can have a bring your fiance slash bring your husband.
can we focus on the story? Okay. So let's talk about this line. And this was another thing too, guys. In case you didn't pick up on this, Hemingway actually gives us insight into the lion's thoughts. This is unusual. Did y'all not catch that? Y'all need to look at that, okay? The lion, you actually get insight into what the lion is thinking and feeling.
When he runs and stuff, is that what you thought about when
He's in emotion, thinking. I mean, it's like the lion is a person, and we can see his thoughts. Why? I mean, that suggests that the lion is significant in some way. Why would Hemingway do this? Okay. Why? Why would it matter?
Maybe because he's trying to say, well, how does her husband feel about, well, not how he feels because he's dead, but how would he feel knowing that she shot him in the head? I don't know.
Alright. So, I mean, if we go along with Sydney's original proposal that the lion and Francis McCumber have a relationship, that they perhaps symbolize one another in some way, then, you know, we could look at the lion as to be an opening to another side of Francis McCumber, sort of opening up his thoughts to us as the reader. What are some other potential reasons, either for the lion, for Hemingway including the lion's thoughts, or what are some other ways that the lion might be symbolic? And Anna, you can answer me.
he's a jungle?
Okay, he's the king of the jungle, so that's an important concept. I mean, we can't divorce the lion from that.
that's Wilson.
Okay, so Wilson's the king of the jungle. So we could also look at the lion as perhaps part of Wilson in some way. So if the lion represents both Francis McCumber and Wilson, is there a more general term that we might? Yeah, the masculinity. The lion could represent
This competitor, strong, powerful presence, and traditionally speaking, we would see men as the protectors, the providers. They're supposed to, get all the and take care of us. I mean, it's very stereotypical, not necessarily true anymore, but back in the day, and especially in Hemingway's day, they provided, took care of the wife, stayed home, and raised children. I mean, it sounds horrible, but
And what do y'all know, because we've all watched The Lion King, right? Ever seen that? Okay. Alright, what do y'all know about like a lion family? Like what's that usually consist of?
There's one male and the rest are females.
Right, what happens if another male comes? Yeah, there's a big fight and they die, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so can we relate that somehow to the story?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
My mom.
But it wasn't the male lion that killed the other male. It was the female lion that killed the male lion.
But maybe
And we
before,
went to
like you
another
said, but
male
maybe it was
came.
for Wilson.
maybe the other male was the other guy, and then he died. So it's
Wait, the other guy, you lost me. I
Okay.
gotta have some names here, Tequila.
Okay, the Wilson guy, and then her husband.
Francis.
Okay, you said that it's one male and then female. So the other guy, the Wilson guy came along and then her husband died. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying there's
He
some
was the alpha
potential.
male. Yeah.
He was the other male. So
There's
he had
some-
to die.
There's some potential for that. I mean, it's one interpretation. This is not like the only interpretation. Do y'all see what I'm saying? But like, there's a reason that the lion was chosen. Okay, there's a reason why that's the predator that's chosen. Also, just FYI, the female lions are actually the hunters.
Oh. So that's fine, why would you kill him now?
They're gonna
Well,
only
he's
be
the protector, but
He's
then-
the protector.
They
He's the
rule.
defender. If
Right.
anybody comes into their
He won't kill
territory,
him.
he defends, but the females go out and hunt.
Well, it's like women stay home and cook and.
So was Margaret, like, was she unhappy with him?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Was Margot unhappy
Yes.
with her
Yes.
husband?
Yes.
Why?
He was a coward.
He's a coward. Especially when he ran from the lion. He was a coward. Wilson makes some comment. Do you remember what he says about that? About Margot and, her being unhappy?
For four
That
letter.
could have been another reason why she killed her husband. She saw potential in the other man, so she had to maybe get him out of the picture because she knew that if they were both around, it could never happen. So she probably felt like she had to eliminate him in order to get to
The weaker.
the weaker of the two. Because
Y'all
she
aren't
did-
far off with
She
Hemingway,
did marry
okay?
him she did marry him for money, but money doesn't buy happiness. So she probably figured like, hey, well, let me kill him, and then I'm already unhappy, so let me eliminate him, and then give him to the Wilson guy, so I can be happy.
But did
She
she
really
really
has-
have somebody too, or no?
Well, and then they didn't have prenups back then, so.
I was just gonna say, well, I mean, they didn't have
Wilson
insurance
is a
policy.
safari guide.
Steve didn't have money, it's,
I-
Francis had money.
Francis had money. Wilson did not have money. Wilson made money off of rich people doing this, but it wasn't, he's not rich.
But the money goes to him because he died. That's his wife, so I'm sure his money went to him so she can have two of both worlds.
No, Francis's money would go to her.
Yeah, that's what,
They
that's
had
what
no
she's trying to say, I think. She's
Right.
trying to say
Yeah.
there's no.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry. His
No.
money would go to her, so she would at the end still have the money, but then she would be happy with the guy.
Well, actually, it's not necessarily true that the money would go to her at this point. It really depends on how Francis set things up.
Prenuptial agreement could have been signed.
Well, I mean, we don't know. We don't know. I mean, I'm perfectly willing to admit that Margot might have been motivated by the fact that she felt she would inherit
It's like
Francis's
Snap.
will.
Like an episode of
Yeah, I know I watched
Yeah.
that.
What year was this in?
What year was it written?
1940.
36.
Yeah, he probably most likely got the money because nowadays they do that prenuptial things more often. I think. I don't think they did back then that
They
much.
had prenups
Well, I
like
mean-
36.
But that doesn't mean that she got the money. He
It just
could have-
matters if
We just
if
have
they
no
caught her,
evidence.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't.
We can make presumptions.
Yeah, we could
Presumptions
make-
because there were no such thing really as prenups or anything like that, but, I mean, if he has a family member or if it's the family's money, his
His
parents are.
father could very well.
Yeah, his father's still alive or a brother or something like that, they could get the money before him, but we can presume that, if he had no other living heirs or whatever, she would get the money.
Had he wrote a will.
But I mean, if you were gonna write that in a paper, guys, you would have to explain all of that. Like you would have to say, one of the motivations we can speculate about for Margaret killing, if you wanted to assume that she killed him deliberately, is that perhaps she would inherit the money. But there's no hard evidence, so you would have to say that you are speculating. Does that make sense? It's a valid speculation. It's just you can't prove it. Jason.
But she cries at the end, and
understand
Wilson kind of jokingly says some stuff to her, and then she goes, "Stop it!" So it kind of makes you think that she didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah, but she could be acting.
Yeah, but, yeah.
Well, and there's a shock value too. I mean, for example, my family owns a ranch, and I deliberately had to kill a chicken one time because that's part of our upbringing. Like we're taught that we raise.
And you
animals.
cried.
I did cry.
It's hard to see something die.
Yeah, it's hard.
Even if you know you're doing it intentionally.
I would imagine that
Don't think
we
about
could
it.
say she cried, and I mean, you could definitely make a case that her crying indicates remorse or that it was a happy accident. Sorry, an accident on her part. But I think you could also say that the crying is coincidental of the act itself, like just that, oh my God, I just killed someone moment.
It's not like she's never done it before, so it's, she did it, and
Yeah, there's a shock value to it.
It's always after the fact because humans have a tendency to dehumanize. So you don't, there's no feeling involved, sympathy or empathy involved with the actual event that's going on at the time. That's why we call Iraqis insurgents. It's just a form of nobody even knows what that means, but everybody knows an insurgent is a bad guy. Like the chicken thing, you look at it as food. If you're hungry enough, you're gonna kill that chicken. You don't think of if it's alive.
No, you're absolutely right, and that really plays into the ideas that y'all were saying about whether or not the wife views Francis as a real man. And if she doesn't view him as a real man, it is in some ways perhaps easier for her to kill him, and then she realizes what she's done. Do y'all see what I'm saying? Like there is some of that same distance.
It's emasculating.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Kind of like when there's a dying cow or something, you have to kill it. Or like an old yeller when he's dying. you have to
Rabies.
kill
Is it
the
rabies?
dog because
Of course, the problem with this theory is what, guys? What revelation does Francis have about himself in this story? Francis has an epiphany moment.
Where he said when he shoots the bison or whatever, buffalo, or whatever,
Yeah, I think I could do that again,
and he wants to go kill a lion. He's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm ready to go kill a lion.
Yeah.
Okay,
He
so
manned
what-
up.
Yeah, he manned up. So, you know, we can say that the wife, you know, originally saw, but something changed for Margaret when Francis changed. What was it?
Maybe she got weaker, maybe. Challenged?
Let me get my looking wrong. Give me the page.
is it
Fearful.
page 218
Let me look. What do you, give me the quote.
Oh,
from
he disrespected her. Remember that.
You, okay,
there was no
no, yeah.
George Wilson. She saw Wilson.
What line are you at?
389.
Okay, good. From the far corner of the seat, Margaret Macomber looked at the two of them. There was no change in Wilson. She saw Wilson as she had seen him the day before when she had realized what his great talent was. But she saw the change in Francis Macomber now. And if you keep going down, guys, she also says, you've gotten awfully brave, awfully sudden, his wife said contemptuously. But her contempt was not secure.
Oh, yes.
Why? Why is she no longer secure? What was she secure about to begin with?
Killing him. Well,
Not
Why?
killing him.
that he was a pansy.
Okay, yeah, that he was a coward, that he was never going to do anything, right? What could she get away with? Anything? What did she get away with?
Murder, supposedly.
Well,
No, before the murder.
I was sleeping with Wilson,
Sleeping with Wilson.
and he just let her do
And she married him for his money, and he married her. So there's not anything behind it besides that.
And what does the story say about their marriage? It deliberately says something about them.
that he didn't need
They're
anything.
superficial.
Meaningless, yeah.
If you look at page 213, and the quote that's in the box in the center, what does it say? So what's the assumption? What is she secure about?
or her looks, but
Which means what for her marriage?
she will never get divorced if she's not.
Not that she won't get divorced, but that what?
He will never leave her.
He'll never leave her.
He was a pansy.
That's a difference, guys. I mean, do y'all see what I'm saying now? Now what changes? Why is she no longer secure come page 218?
Because he's
Has an opinion.
not afraid.
He's not afraid anymore.
Yes! Excellent, guys. Okay, now are y'all seeing this? Is it starting to go through? Okay, yeah, this is a really interesting story. And Hemingway, if you like this story, this is all that Hemingway does.
Now that he has an opinion, he might leave her for someone else.
That's right. Now that he's manning up, he can walk away.
And she's scared maybe. I
she's
think.
scared.
That's what she shoots.
You know, because the assumption is she's beautiful. You know, she's the best he's ever going to have, so he won't leave her. That's what she's banking on.
But
And
if
didn't
she's
Wilson say
scared,
leave the gun behind? Didn't he say, won't you leave this gun behind and like to, I remember that part.
Oh, yeah.
Now that I'm like, it's like,
We'll send something else. What else, Sydney?
if she was scared for him to leave her though, then why would she kill him?
Because then he can't leave her.
And
She doesn't
she
get
has
that.
some- and then she
There's
has
no
the money.
embarrassment factor. I mean, he's dead. It was an accident, supposedly. You know, there's no, my husband left me. It's, oh, my husband died in this tragic
So it's more
accident.
like a pride thing.
Could be.
pride, fear, pride with lions. Very good.
Jealousy.
Funny.
Jealousy. Now Wilson, let's talk about Wilson.
Ew.
Tom Selleck like dude.
We've already mentioned that we don't like Wilson.
You know, that was my
He's
dad's name,
conniving.
Robert Wilson.
Wilson.
It's kind of weird.
About what?
But like, what he does for his profession, like how good he is at killing animals and like getting the job done and keeping people off showing them how to do what he does.
Stereotypical alpha male. I
He's
think
pretty egotistic.
Yeah. I'm the man.
Is
And
there
I'm handsome and
anything
I'm buff and I'm.
redeeming about Wilson?
No.
He's not a coward.
He's not
Well,
a coward.
whatever.
He made
Maybe his
what's her name happy?
Okay, maybe.
We don't know. The NBC now.
And I guess it depends on how you define happiness. Is this like a
I'm not gonna go there.
or a flash in the pan or what? You know? Well, I'm just saying.
Grass is always greener and
like, oh, he's so fancy husband because he was in that.
yeah.
And we don't know that.
What? Okay, and you know, we haven't really talked about Margaret. How do we feel about her?
Evil, she
Stuck up.
Okay, don't hold back, Jackie. How do we feel about Margaret? What, Jason?
Stuck up.
She's stuck up?
I just think she feels she can get away with anything she wants. You know, because why would he knew where she was. When she wasn't in the bed, to caught whatever,
Who's he?
her husband.
Well, you
He
gotta
knew.
clarify.
Macomber, Francis, I can't get over that, my mom's name's Francis. so I can't-
Francis. That's a wussy name.
That's actually significant in the story, by the way. That he has the name
Yeah, oh, there you
Francis.
go.
It's a sissy name, right?
Yeah.
It is, I mean, a lot of females are named Francis. It's telling that it's a name that could be for either a male or a female.
Girly.
I feel like Hemingway kind of presented her as not really a deep character, but I think she's deeper than, I don't know, like you read the story, but when you really start thinking about it, she's kind of evil. You know?
Well, who's the one character that we don't see into?
The one.
Not the one.
The murdered dude. Francie.
The.
Do we see Wilson's thoughts?
Nah, a little bit. Not
Yes,
much.
you do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We see Wilson's
So,
thoughts.
Right.
Do you see
Conniving.
Francis's thoughts?
Yes, when he gets yelled.
We see the lion's thoughts, right? What about Margaret?
We just see what
Not
she
too much.
says and does, but we don't see her actual thought.
We don't see her actual thoughts.
No, we don't.
Is this like the I read about it. Hold on. Where's my I turned it in. It's the character the narrator puts in the story that raises the audience like questions about the story.
Oh, the
naive
naive. That's the
character.
naive narrator.
Would she be considered a naive character because we really don't know what her intentions are?
Well, okay, no.
Stuff, yeah.
But you are thinking tequila. It's called a naive narrator.
Okay.
And the naive narrator is one that doesn't know everything.
Oh.
Okay?
Well, I read something about it raises questions.
It does raise questions. The naive narrator and the unreliable narrator raise questions for us. Because the naive narrator, if we figure out that they don't know everything that's going on, then we as readers start to question what's happening, okay? So, for example, if the story Barn Burning was told from actual Sardi's perspective, not a third-person outsider, but from a 10-year-old boy's
He
perspective.
really doesn't know.
Exactly. So that would raise questions for us. That would be a naive narrator perspective. Does that make sense? An unreliable narrator is deceiving. We really haven't had too much of that yet, although we will have some stories like that. But it's like you kind of question whether or not the narrator is capable of telling us the story. Telltale Heart is a really good example of this, guys, because the narrator himself admits somewhat to being mad And so the question is, if this narrator is mad, how much can we rely on their testimony, what they're saying? And so that raises questions for us about the validity of the tale itself.
I never think about that.
But that would be an example of an unreliable narrator. You could also have a narrator that lies to you, deliberately lies to you. So it's kind of some interesting things. And by deliberately lies, I mean that it's obvious that the narrator is lying. Okay, so like for example, on this one, we could say maybe the narrator's lying about Wilson, but there's no indication that they're lying about Wilson's feelings. Does that make sense? Like, Wilson's actions, his thoughts that we're getting from the narrator are all in line. Like, there's no reason for us to question that. Okay. Is this making sense? Does that sort of help, guys? Okay. Let's see. Let's talk for a couple of more minutes about Margaret. She's the only one we don't get any direct insight into her thoughts. We see her actions, we hear her speak, but we don't actually get into her head.
Well, this would be a different story, I think.
Sure. So what would be different? I mean, the question is, why would Hemingway leave her out?
Because she's the one that kills her husband, Francis. If we saw into her thoughts, we'd know why she killed him. And to, draws you in that you don't know.
Okay. Well,
You could also go through with the time frame that Hemingway lived. I mean, he's saying 1961. They had friends, but they weren't, like we do now. You may not have thought highly of women at all to where you need to know what they're thinking. Because they're just,
Hemingway does not think highly of women.
I'm
Should
playing
be
devil's
very
advocate.
evident
But I
from
mean,
the story.
based on historical time frame for the time he lived, women didn't have rights. They were just thought as pretty little dumb things. You went to college so you could, make a better cake or something. Seriously, women's colleges.
Yeah.
You went to college before you got married,
They
and
how to do all that.
yeah. I mean, you may have taken all these great classes, but you didn't do anything with them.
I would tell you 9 out of 10 critics agree that Hemingway is a misogynist, which means he's very egotistical, but very male, very down on the female perspective. And so him not including Margot's thoughts, I mean, if we were doing a biographical reading of this, like an author reading of this, we could say a lot about Hemingway's attitudes toward those people. Giving a historical approach, Jackie's absolutely right. We can look at the culture and everyone, they weren't expected to know about politics or things. On the flip side of this, though, and to play devil's advocate, Margaret is the one who kills a living human being. Which you can read that in a couple of different ways. As I said, the lions, in a pride of lions, the females are the hunters.
And also, the whole attitude of created all this and where that happens. I don't know how religious it is, but whatever. Not that he is. Doesn't mean he wasn't forced to go to church and stuff when he was little.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's religious just because he went to church.
You're
Jason.
The Amazons, were they is that based on, is that a real tribe, or were they just,
You mean the Swahili people?
no, I mean like those jungle women in South America, is that a fictional story, is that real? Was that a reality at one time? You ever heard of that? The Amazons?
Yes.
Is that,
I'm just wondering how you jumped to that.
well, you're talking about killing women as being the hunters and stuff. I'm just curious about that.
Yes, there are female-dominant societies where women were hunters and the leaders, the matriarchs. Actually, up until, I would tell you, more than the feudal era, most societies were matriarchal, as opposed to patriarchal.
So women tend to be the bigger killer, huh?
They were the idea was that women could give birth. That was the mystery, that men couldn't do that. So women were revered for their ability to give life.
Wait, which century word did you say one more matriarchal?
Pre-medieval.
Give it and take it.
Like the ancient, Mesopotamia, Sumer, all those societies were very, if not completely matriarchal, then an equal balance of male and female.
I was gonna say, that could be well before the, Napoleonic Wars. because of
Absolutely.
the-
Well before that. The shift really came. I'm not a resource, I could give you my opinion, but that is not my subject area, so I'm gonna leave it at well before medieval feudal and Connecticut. Are there any other comments or questions you guys want to make about this? Yes.
I heard him a couple times refer to a four-letter man. Four-letter man. What's that mean? Well, I'm thinking some bad words to say. Is that what it means?
My guess would be shit.
Or
I'm leaning more towards the S because the 5-letter female would be a bitch.
okay.
He actually played my
So it's man. I've never heard that before.
Just that he is not really a man, that he's a bad word man.
Or it could be the yeah, because he was a
I would have to look up what cuss words were prevalent in Hemingway's time period, but I would expect that it's equivalent to that.
okay.
I mean, I think that Hemingway deliberately leaves that as 4-letter man so that we fill in our own, whatever we want to put there. I think that's a device he uses to engage the reader. And also to make his piece somewhat timeless, because if we're filling in the word, it makes it more applicable to us. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, exactly.
Well, I think about 2 or 3 words.
For next time, guys, just real quick, for next time, where is my
You're good.
What?
She said,
It was hard.
text her, and I said, well, she hasn't passed out a piece of paper, so you're good.
For next time, guys, we're reading Gracie Lake, which is a much more modern story. So, I mean, anyways, back in the 20s, 30s, okay, this one's going to be much more modern, more probably like 50s and 60s is what we're thinking. Well, but the story setting you'll see is more like. We'll also be looking at language, tone, and style. So guys, we read more about point of view. We're going to be reading about language, tone, and style. Expect that if there are bold words, put them on your note card. And expect me to ask questions about them. Okay. We will also be reading about constructionism and deconstruction. So that's going to go over language, PCA, and development. Expect this question. So you're not always say that I'm a bandwagon. Jump on. But we've got some really good stuff. We'll be doing short stories next time and the time after that. And then we'll switch to poetry, and then we'll do a play again. So this one is pretty much the same. The Typhus is a much shorter play though than the documentary. So that's why it's just all, and it's produced by the 12 individuals. So it's like 30 each year. Yeah, it's really strict. And like I said, I'm giving you a heads up about your midterm, but we'll discuss that more in depth next week, but we would be about to start talking about. I am also going to have a couple of extra credit assignments. I've got a minute to talk to you all about this. So one of them would be to rewrite one of the scenes in the Glassman Notebook and make it more modern. Or you could pick any scene you want and rewrite it, but that would be an option. Another option would be what I'm going to call card reports, and I'll put up a sheet about that. Okay. One other option will be event attendance, and that event attendance sheet that I basically put out there for that Every Monday Matters. I'm just gonna put like a general list of like acceptable events here on campus. It has to be like here on campus. Like you can go to like a Brownback seminar. You can go to whatever.
Other events that are
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There are quite a few events that are after that. So I mean, I would try and locate like the events calendar into it for you guys and kind of give you a heads up, but I've got so much right now that's not gonna be something where I'm really like on top of, does that make sense? Also, your email, you should get emails about events, in your Lone Star, not Angel, but the Lone Star email. Well, I'm just letting y'all know that that would be another way to get some information about events, okay? Beyond that, guys, there will be some other opportunities. We're gonna have an opportunity to decorate a mask and create your own clothing, and there's gonna be some other things showing how you know. The way extra credit works is you can earn up to 5% of your grade, so that's half of 11th grade. Each extra credit will be worth about 10 points. So if you think of like a 1,000-point scale, you can earn up to 50 points of extra credit in the semester, and that will be directly applied to your overall grade. That doesn't include like any questions on the physics, that's just extra. Does that make sense? So that's the way I'm working with this semester. So along with your midterm next week, you'll see a couple of extra credit things start popping up. You need to be getting it done. Okay? Questions? You're welcome. I will see you guys. Make sure you